Oh god, yeah, okay. Let's not go into that one. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of HP Critical, a podcast where my friends and I talk all things gaming. I'm Jerel, and today I am joined by the amazing Marissa, and later on we're going to be joined by David as well, and we couldn't not have a podcast about the Final Fantasy VII Remake demo that dropped. So I'm super excited about it. I don't know how many people know, but I played Final Fantasy for the first time ever last year. The original, I went through it. It was definitely a game that I was very surprised at. I went in with no understanding, no expectations, and I got through it, and I was just super shocked at how dense and crazy and intense that game is. I had no idea that there was so much that went into it. So, of course, I've been super excited about the demo. I grabbed Marissa because she's never played the original and was, I think, interested a little bit in maybe trying the game out.
Yeah, I had seen clips from Advent Child, I think is what the FF7 movie was.
Oh, Advent Children, yeah.
I don't... Yeah. And so I remember being like, oh man, these characters look freaking cool and everything like that, but I didn't have the original game. I never played it or anything. I didn't even end up watching the movie. I just kept seeing clips of it and everything. So,
well, I haven't seen the movie either.
Yeah, I have had some spoilers for FF7, but I've never played it myself, and I don't know, exactly where all the events fall and everything that happened.
So I will try my best to make sure that I don't spoil you in any way for the actual game. I mean, this is literally, it's crazy because this demo is basically one-to-one to what you play in the original. It's almost exactly the same. There are a few differences here and there. The scale is much larger. Okay, before I go into all of this, I want to ask you first, as someone who's never played the game, like, what are your initial impressions of the Final Fantasy VII Remake? Like, just where do you think the game is going to go? Without going into too much detail, like, did you like it? Did you not like it? How are you feeling about it?
So, I feel extremely neutral because for everything that I like about it, there's equal parts that I wasn't crazy about. Mm-hmm. I know I am personally kind of on that cusp of liking JRPGs and not liking them. It really depends on how they're executed, how they're done. I think a lot of the times they are very over dramatic and overacted, and I just start to get bogged down by all of this like bullshit that goes on, and I'm like, oh my god, please stop. Mm-hmm. But I am excited for this game. I've seen the comparisons of what it looks like originally, and I think that any review that comes out from this point forward on anything, the graphics get 10 out of 10 easily.
Oh my gosh.
They are so beautiful and amazing, and especially if you've even just seen shots, like just screenshots of what the game used to look like compared to now. Holy shit, it is an entirely new game. You can tell that this was built from the ground up. This wasn't just, hey, we slapped a fresh coat of paint on it. It's fucking beautiful. Holy shit.
I'm so happy that you went there first because you know that I'm a graphics whore, and as soon as I started this game, there's a section right in the beginning when Cloud, who thinks he's a badass and like flips off the fucking train because he's so cool.
Yeah, because he has to show off.
I love it. They do a close up on his face, and I was just like, look at this man's face. Like, that is the face of a real person. This is not computer generated. Like, this looks so good. Even Aerith.
Yeah, because oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I'm done. I was just gonna say, even Aerith in the beginning, her face is just like gorgeous and just like, girl, you're beautiful.
Yeah. No, I mean, all of the details are so amazing because I kept being impressed anytime that they would like zoom in on someone's face, where you could just like see splotches of discoloration in their face. It wasn't just, like, oh yeah, this is what people should look like. This was, no, we want this to feel real. We want them to look like real people. And I remember even seeing up close renders of like Tifa, and just like,
bruh,
she has facial hair, and I'm just like, holy shit, they actually did that.
Yes, it's
so excited.
I mean, that in itself is just So, and this is still PS4 era, you know? Like, we haven't even
Yeah,
gotten
yeah.
to PS5, and to see that amount of detail going into a video game, it just, if anyone is ever confused as to why this game is going to be 2 discs and over 100 gigabytes as a download, I mean, just try the demo. Realize that this 40 minutes to an hour that you just played is nothing compared to what you're going to get. And then I think it becomes very apparent why this game is going to be so big.
Yeah,
Even just pre-rendered cutscenes and the opening movie is just, it's gorgeous. Everything is so real. Anyway, so overall, yes and no. You're still excited about it, but you're still iffy, right?
Yeah, still iffy. Still excited though, because as I was saying, pretty much every aspect. Like, if we just go down the list of gameplay, I have things that I really like. I think that the combat is incredibly fluid, but I feel like some of the things that they put in to make it easier are still kind of clunky, just like how you can walk up to these portions that have arrows and your character will automatically jump over barriers.
So let's
and stuff
talk
like
about
that.
it.
It's still...
Let's talk about it. I wasn't going to go into it, but let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's talk about combat first. I went in with very high expectations for combat for this game. Because I was very hyped about, because I love turn-based, as you know. Persona 5, hello.
Yeah. Oh my god.
One of the reasons that I always said I love Persona 5 so much is because the game made turn-based not feel like turn-based. Like, and even if you don't like a turn-based game, you can try Persona 5 and you might actually enjoy it because it's so fast-paced that it doesn't actually feel like a turn-based title. I was very concerned about Final Fantasy 7 Remake at first, because I wasn't sure what direction they were going to go with the combat. And then I found out that they were doing this mixture of turn-based active time battle, Kingdom Hearts button mashing, and I was like, okay, this looks really, really cool. I really want to try it. I played the demo the first time, and I sucked. And I played it again, and I got the hang of it, and I was like, this is actually brilliant. I love the way that combat works in this game, because it's not just something that, and I don't know if you felt the same way, so you'll have to tell me, but it's not just, button mash, button mash, button mash anymore. It's very thought out, because there are sections where instead of just button mashing, you actually have to think about what you're going to do, which is very different to any other title where you're just button mashing. Like, in Kingdom Hearts, I will just press buttons all day. And in Final Fantasy VII, I actually need to, pay attention. Okay, my 1 ATB gauge is full. Oh shit, Barrett's over there dying because he's not paying attention. I need to switch over to him, and then when I switch over to him, okay, which one of his abilities is going to be able to stagger this enemy? Oh, none of them. Oh shit, now Cloud's being a dumbass and he's dying. Let me switch back. After I switch back, okay, am I going to use a magic weapon this time? Am I going to use an item because we're freaking dying? Like, there's so many things that go into combat that make it feel so exciting and exhilarating and keeps you on your toes. And I really, really love that. But how did you feel about it?
I pretty much felt the same way. I felt like it was, especially because I am not really familiar at all with Final Fantasy games, it was a lot to learn right out the gate. And I mean, it's good. I'm not trying to be like, oh my god, this is too much, it's too complicated or anything. I was really grateful for, the little pop-ups, the little tutorials and everything, because I was just like, okay, so I know that I hit them. Cool, we got that established. But, I think that it is a really good mix. It feels so alive. It feels like everything is happening all at once. And like you said, turn-based can be fun as long as it doesn't feel like you're slowing the game down so incredibly much, making all these decisions. Exactly. I like that you could immediately be like, oh shit, someone's shooting at me from afar, switch over to Barrett. Oh shit, now they're up close again, switch back to Cloud. And all of that was just with a button push. You didn't have to go into some arbitrary menu, choose who you wanted to be, select what you wanted them to do. I liked that everything was just pretty much one button. The only time that it wasn't was using items or switching over to spells. And even then it was, okay, I'm gonna issue this order. I'm going to go down to spells. I'm going to hit the spell.
Yeah.
You know, so it's still not really taking you out of the action. And I really like the way that they approach that too, to where all it does is that it's not a huge menu that takes over your screen. It just slows things down.
Yeah.
So you can still
really
see
cool.
all the action going on in the background. Yeah, it looks so fucking badass. It's great. So the combat itself, like I can't really say that there's anything that I would necessarily change or that I didn't super like. I think that I would have to, I know that I essentially have to just learn it better, but that once I do, like I'm going to breeze through it. I really like the way that the combat is. It just feels really fluid and a lot of fun. Like, yeah. I enjoyed it a lot.
I was very afraid that it was going to be just too easy. I really thought it was just going to be button mashing too easy. Like, this is not going to be challenging. And then I did the first boss, and half the demo's time was just me fighting that first boss. And I was like, this is much more involved than I originally thought that it would be. And even in combat, even when you're button mashing, I love that each character has two different styles of combat that they can do. So, you know, Cloud has his regular mode, and then he has his Punisher mode, which is all about doing more damage, but you can't block. But when you do block melee attacks, you get, he auto attacks back. You know, deciding what to do. And Barrett's, Overdrive, I think it's called. I can't remember what it's called right now.
Yeah.
But where you just like shoot like 4 times, and then you gotta charge it up. All of that stuff adds to, you know, it adds to, instead of the game just being button mashing, it's all something that you really have to think about when you're doing it. And aside from...
Well, and I even... Oh, sorry.
No. Go ahead. I was just going to say, aside from the music, the combat is my favorite thing about this game. And graphics, of course. Yeah. But go ahead.
Well, and I even like that, and especially since, you know, in the demo, you're really only playing as Cloud and Barrett, but I like that you can use that overdrive feature, which he does have to reload and recharge. Then you can just switch back over to Cloud, deal with your melee enemies while he's doing that, and then you switch back over to Barrett and be like, okay, now we have charge again. I'm going to finish off these ranged enemies. There's really no point where you're just sitting down not doing anything, or sitting down waiting for something to happen. You can literally be moving, fighting, attacking, all of that, all at the same time.
Yeah. And I mean, ideally, that's how you want to play this game. You want to be on your toes. You want to be Barrett. You want to switch back to Cloud. You want to make sure that you're doing your braver ability and your focus thrust, and you're really taking advantage of all the time that you have while you have these ATB cages. And it was, I'm not gonna lie, it was really challenging the first time on normal when I was doing the last boss. I never use potions in games, like, ever, because I never die. I used like 15 potions during that battle, and I was like, what is going on? I didn't die. I did not die, which was a feat.
Yeah.
And then, like, the third time I did it, I used, like, 8 or 9. So I got better, but I love that it's actually, a challenging thing that you really, it's thinking and moving and doing, and it's just, I'm so excited. I love the combat so much that I just like playing, I like fighting things. That's so weird. I'm waiting until I get to the next enemy. That's how much I like the combat in Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. So, speaking of the next thing, music. So I am a huge fan of the original, and the remixes on this game are just mind-blowing. But as someone who's not really into it, how did you feel about the scale of the music, the tone of it, the sound of it?
I do really like it. I will be totally honest, and this is actually what I really admire about, like, music that's in movies and stuff like that too, is that I didn't necessarily feel its presence there in terms of, my attention is immediately drawn to, like, this tuba in the background or these cymbals that are constantly going off. Like, none of it was distracting. It all felt like it was there just making the moment more epic. So I couldn't tell you, like, my favorite song is the one that played during this. Because it was enough there that I could feel the energy and that shit's going down and that we're trying to race against the clock at certain points, or that you're about to walk into this boss fight. But, it wasn't overpowering. It wasn't to the point where it called so much attention to itself where you're like, okay, I've heard the same loop of music for 5 minutes now and I'm ready for something different. So I think that it's done really well, especially because there are times when you can just kind of go off and, oh, hey, there's boxes over here. So now I'm beating them up instead of running over to the next checkpoint.
Yeah.
Oh, there's chests over here that I'm opening. So even while you're doing all of that stuff, it's not like you're constantly hearing something that doesn't belong there. It all feels so in the moment. Like, it all goes together so well.
Yes. I'm so happy that you feel that way, because I feel exactly the same. It's very nuanced, and it's in the right tone at the right time. So much so that you don't notice it, but when you do, you're like, oh, this works. This works very, very well. So we talked about graphics, and we talked about combat, and we talked about music, but I want to know what you like and dislike about this game so far.
So really, I feel like for almost everything except for graphics, it's almost like two sides of a coin. So I love the controls in terms of combat. I don't like it for just walking around necessarily. I still feel like there's areas where it says that it's going to make it a little bit more seamless by you going and doing these different interactions, but then I was still running circles around a ladder, even though I approached it from the front, but Cloud just apparently didn't realize that I wanted him to climb a ladder. And I know it can be a little bit nitpicky. I totally get that. I'm not trying to be like, it's a horrible game because of this aspect, but it was kind of weird to go from combat being so smooth and so well-rounded to, okay, I've been running into this ladder for like 5 seconds and it's still not letting me climb. Yeah. I think it's weird that it's like you don't really have a choice to fight or not fight. And I don't know if that's just a common theme in Final Fantasy games. I haven't played like any, and if I have, it's been for maybe an hour. But once you, in the demo, you plant this bomb, you decide how long you want to have, and then you have to race out of there. And so my thing is like, okay, I'm trying to race out of here. I'm passing by like these super small sentry drones. I don't really need to stop and fight them. I can just keep running. And it wouldn't let me go to the next section until I dealt with them. And they weren't blocking my way. They weren't doing anything to me, like they weren't even shooting at me at this point. Like, there wasn't bullets that were stopping my progress or anything like that. So I really don't understand why it kind of was like, hey, no, you have this thing that you have to fight right now. As opposed to like, okay, but the clock is running and I can get the fuck out because I don't know if something's going to pop up or, So it was weird, but it's like at the same time, there's so many design choices and options for how the camera is that it's so well thought out. So it's those little things that I think draw my attention so much because the rest of it is so good. One of the things that I was noticing that as you are escaping after you beat that boss in the demo, you get separated from Barrett and you kind of have to go this different route with Jesse in order to catch back up to him. And my camera pans over in this weird way and I'm like, I don't understand why it's fixed like this. And all of a sudden I look over and I can see Barrett on the other side climbing up the opposite ladder. And I was like, oh shit! So it's giving you so much information. Yeah. As you're running through, there were all these chests that I had missed going in, but the way that the camera is angled is so perfect to show you everything that you've missed along the way, so you can stop and get those. It's not just like, well, you missed it, and so you're gonna have to do that on your next playthrough. It's like every minor detail like that was so well thought out. So it's a little bit weird that there's all these other things that are a little bit clunky or no, you don't get an option here. You have to do this thing. So that's, the aspect, at least with controls, is that you have this amazing combat. You have these camera decisions, these angle decisions and everything like that are just incredible and show so much thought and love from the team. And then you have this, once again, I'm just like trying to proc the next progress point and it won't let me go and I don't know what I'm doing wrong because I see the arrow and I'm standing on it.
It's so funny because I actually have never tried to fight them. I always just fought everything just because I enjoyed the combat so much. So I actually had no idea that you couldn't progress until you fought everything in the area.
Yeah. It was weird because I had made it to the ladder and it just, Cloud wouldn't put his sword away. So I couldn't climb up it. And I was like, what the fuck? I have to go back and deal with these two little shits that are not even firing at me anymore. Are you serious?
That's so interesting. So I'm assuming, obviously this is just me making assumptions. I don't know whether it's because it's the demo that they force you to do it that way, or if it's because, you know, it amps up the tension. You only have 20 minutes and you have to go back and fight these things before you can move on. But what I do know is that in every other Final Fantasy game, there is an option to run so that you do not have to fight every enemy. So I'm assuming that in the actual main game, you will have the option. But that's, okay. I had no idea that was a thing. You can literally just run away.
Was so weird. Because it was another one of those moments I was just so confused as to, I know I'm going the right way. This literally dens into a ladder going up. And I'm just like, nope, Cloud has a sword out. He wants to fucking brawl. And you have to go back. I was like, okay, I guess.
And the other thing that I completely agree with you on is, and these games have never had jump buttons like that, but I feel like if ever there was a Final Fantasy game that needed a jump button or an interact button, it's this one. Because it seems so weird that I get, like you said, all these options, and I can't just have a button to jump over the turnstile. Like, what? Mm-hmm. I gotta just walk into it. And it's not a bad thing that it just happens automatically. I think it's just that the type of game that this is becoming, because it's no longer just a turn-based style JRPG. Now it's so involved that it makes it so weird that even though it's so involved, there are still things that you can't do on your own. Which includes jumping over shit, because there's no jump button.
Yeah. No, honestly, anytime that there's games that don't have sprint or don't have jumping, I'm just like, it's 2020. Yeah. We are all used to the concept of sprinting and jumping in video games now.
And that's the other thing. Oh my gosh, so that's the other thing. You have like 3 different buttons you can press to sprint.
Yeah,
you can click in the button, you can press R1 or you can press R2 and they all make you sprint. But you can't jump. Just I don't know I don't know. It was and it's not a huge deal, you know, like it's trivial. After like my 4th playthrough, I was used to not jumping, but I remember the first time being like, y'all really not gonna let me just jump over this? Like, do you think I can't jump, Square Enix? I'm an adult. Yeah. Jeez.
Well, and I think too, in a game that's asking you to make so many decisions in the moment, it seems weird that they take one of the core decisions away from you of, do you jump over this barrier? Do you continue to move forward? Do you, you know, so it's like, especially, you do have interact buttons. So it's not even that, oh no, everything is so committed to another command. Mm-hmm. But, like, so far I haven't seen anything that said, hey, press X to do this. I'm like, come on, just let me press X to jump.
They're like, no, Marissa, you guys are just not capable. Your brain's already on 10 different things. You can't think about jumping as well.
It timed out how long I had to read about one of the fucking commands or something, and it was like, if you can't read about this fucking limit break right now in the middle of shit, you dumb bitch. Like, you don't deserve to jump. You get that later if you speed read all of it.
That's great. Oh my gosh. This has been the best conversation already. I am in love. I'm literally loving all of this.
But I'm the same way with like the acting and the writing. On one side of the coin, I feel like the acting's really well. And from the pieces of the story that I do know, I know that this is going to kick off. Like, I know that there's some shit going on. And I already could see some of the kind of like hooks just to show you that some shit's going on. Mm-hmm. Like, things that I don't know exactly what they're connected to. But during the demo, I could see that, okay, well, the bomb went off. It didn't really seem to do shit. And then they gave the order to shoot the reactor. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, so this is a setup, clearly. I want to know more. You know, so already, this demo, I'm like, I want to know what happens. I want to know why that decision was made. I want to know why they're letting this happen. You know, I want to know the consequences. I want to know if Cloud and all of these party members I've just spent all this time with are getting lured into something. Like, I want to know. But then on the opposite side, all I did was laugh, and I was so close to messaging you last night when I was playing to be like, Jerel, you got me playing some stupid ass.
Oh my god!
So as that train scene that we were talking about and how beautiful it is, it is absolutely gorgeous. I will never badmouth the graphics in this game. It was amazing. But everyone starts to get off the train, and it's literally like a minute of just efforts and sound effects. There's no talking, and it's more than you needed. I get, like, oh, you're jumping from a train, you're landing on your poor little feetsies and your legs, and so it hurts a little bit. But it was like, every time they looked at each other, it's just like, and just like,
Yeah.
for a minute, I was like, are we gonna do something other than just those, like, weird, cheesy looks at each other of being like, okay, we're all on the same page, right? We're all on the same page?
Yeah.
No, we're just gonna grunt at each other until Cloud shows up. It's stuff like that does pull me out of JRPGs.
I
so
see.
fucking quick. Way quicker than it should. But I'm just like, it bothers me.
So can I ask you a question? Oh, go ahead.
Yes. Do it. No, go. Ask.
No?
Do it.
Okay. So, how did you feel about the interactions between characters, like during combat? The banter between Cloud and Barrett, or, Jessie, who was super into Cloud and just flirting with him all the time.
I mean, who isn't, though, honestly?
How did you feel about
so
that?
Again,
did you feel like it was a lot?
I'm mixed on that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like on one side it was done really well, at least with the actual conversation and communication. I really like that. I walk off to go talk to Barrett, and the entire time that he's like giving me shitty looks and more efforts, like that's all that he's doing. I can hear Jessie in the background just talking about how fucking cute I am, and I'm like, that's really cool that I can still overhear their conversation, that it wasn't like you took 2 steps away and then it was like, conversation done.
Yeah.
I like that it was still living and breathing and happening. But some of the different things that happen, it's kind of like unnecessary, I guess, or it drew so much attention to it. Because I think that they already kind of do a good job of drawing your attention to stuff. When you're doing that fight, constantly Cloud is telling you need to be using lightning magic. You need to be using spells.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, cool. It tells me that I need to be doing something different because clearly I'm not doing something effective. But there were a lot of times, too, where there would just be, like, little things that would get said, like all of Cloud's, like, his like snarky little things that he says and shit like that, to where he was like already starting to repeat a couple lines for me, and I was just like, okay, well that takes me out of it. I'm totally down for the ones that have purpose and are telling me that I can't do this because they're too far away, and so, oh shit, that's right, I'll be Barrett. I love the ones that are reminding you what to do. I liked the ones of Jessie where she's kind of like running off and just follow me, and you have to work on the timing. Because that's stuff that your team members would fucking tell you anyway.
Exactly.
So it's like, all of that stuff is really good. But then, again, it was when I was in the beginning of the train station, and you just get 2 guards at a time each time that you go into a separate room. And it was just like, all the stuff that Cloud was saying was to the point where I was like, okay, I'm not even fighting anymore, and he's still giving me combat lines. So, it's weird. Like, it's not game breaking, again. There's so many amazing things. It's just like one of those weird things where they took so much time and care to all the other lines, but then there are like these sloppy, don't need to be there, don't understand why I have combat lines when literally the last dude has been dead for 30 seconds, making me think like, oh, there's another fight going on, and I'm literally just walking up the stairs and nothing's happening.
So that actually does concern me a little bit, because you're already hearing repeated lines, and we're, the first 40 minutes into the game. But I'm also thinking, and this is just me loving this game and being optimistic, but, also being serious, I'm also thinking that because this is a demo, we might have gotten an earlier build, and hopefully when there are different situations that happen, Cloud has different things to say, because the banter between Barrett and Cloud, I actually loved. I thought it was hilarious because they just go back and forth all the time. And it was specific to that fight. although it was repeated in that fight, it was specific to that fight. So I'm hopeful that the further we get in the actual game, the more effort gets put into situations like that, and the more that we hear, and it's not just repetitive stuff, because like you said, that is very concerning to just know that there's already this repetitive talk on something that, and it works so well because it is so natural that once it's repeated, it takes you out of the moment, exactly like you said. So
yeah, because I remember in the big demo fight, where you're just Barrett and Cloud going up against this thing, you know, like I was saying, Cloud was constantly telling me, hey, you have to use lightning magic, hey, you have to use spells and stuff like that. But it was different enough and far enough between to where it didn't feel so repeated. I think it was just those shorter bursts of combat where it was kind of like, you've literally told me 3 times in this 30-second encounter that I need to switch to Barrett, and I'm not, because there's melee people attacking him while he's shooting the turret. So it's like, no, I'm actively making the decision not to. I understand that it's trying to tell me that. And I don't think that there's any game at this point that could be that intelligent to be like, okay, you're clearly not listening because you're making a decision here. Correct. So I'm not even trying to be like, that's bad. It's just that it's weird that you would almost think that in these longer fights, you would start to get to the point where you're like, oh my god, Cloud, shut the fuck up. I know what you're telling me. But I had that in the shorter combat experiences. And then in the longer one, it all made a little bit more sense. You know, I kept getting hit by the EMP move. And it wasn't that I wasn't trying to move out of the way, but it was like, oh shit, I start to roll and then I'd go into the railing and be like, fuck, I thought that I was further away from it, or, you know, something like that. Thinking I was out of the radius and I wasn't yet, knowing that it was so fucking close to being staggered and it wasn't yet. And so I just kept trying to like, if I let a few more fucking attacks before it does the EMP, I can do it. And then it just fucking kicked my ass. And so at one point, Cloud was like, we need to understand the timing of these moves better. Yeah. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. I just need to stop being so like, no, he's so close, he's so close, he's so close, and just like back the fuck up and not get hit by that and do it. So, I mean, it is a very intelligent design. It's just, like I said, it's weird that I'm already kind of frustrated with the shorter combat experiences. But then when I was in the actual boss fight, it felt epic. It felt in the moment. It felt like, holy shit, you know, they're communicating with each other. They're trying to be tactical with each other. They're telling me decisions that, you know, Barrett thinks I should be doing as Cloud, that Cloud thinks Barrett should be doing, you know, and I'm like, that's so fucking cool to just have this constant communication like an honest to God team would if they were in this situation. So again, it's one of those, one side of the coin is absolutely perfect and amazing, and the other side of the coin is like, really? We're having problems with this already?
You know, it's so funny because I love it. I love that too. When they're like, when you switch over to Barrett and he's like, yeah, it's my turn now. And I'm like, yeah, it is your turn, buddy. Let's go. But then also, I had the same thing. Cloud was like, you need to memorize these moves. And I'm like, okay, bro. Okay. Like, you're right. I really
You're right.
Because I'm fucking up here. But then I also agree with the whole like, okay, this could be, if it is repeated, it can get a little tedious. So one thing that I will say that happens that in this demo that actually does not happen in the original, which I don't really think is a spoiler, is that because you mentioned it already at the end when President Shinra actually blows up President Shinra actually blow up the area. In the original game, that's actually not what happens. In the original, the bomb that you plant actually does blow up the game. Does blow up the tower. So that's something that they changed in the remake, and that also made me think, okay, where is this gonna go now? Because a lot happens to them when they think that they are the reason that this happened, you know, like, okay, I blew this shit up, I have to be responsible for it. But in this remake, it's like, well, technically, you didn't actually do that. So
yeah, it really didn't do shit. It kind of like fizzled. It was like
nothing.
And then they took advantage of that.
All that hard work for fucking nothing. You embarrassed me. Right? Your little bitch ass bomb did nothing, guys. Useless. But I am excited to see where that goes. So you did mention a little bit about the story, that it was intriguing and it kind of pulled you in. Is there anything would you like to expand on that? Like, did anything you really liked about it? Anything you didn't like so far? I know it's a little bit, but just based on what you know. Okay,
so
well,
a part
actually,
of it again,
also, based on the demo, what do you, do you understand what's happening as well?
so the thing is that I remember in our chat people talking about the story of FF7 and some of its bigger themes and stuff like that. So a part of me has already kind of figured that out because I have heard it, and it's not necessarily like I've heard from start to end, this is how the game goes. But I already know that there's going to be like climate themes and stuff like that. And I definitely picked up on it with what Barrett was saying, where they're just draining the earth. They're just consuming and consuming and consuming. So I was like, okay, that's confirmed. I know that is in fact one of the main themes that's going to be happening in here. In terms of what the overall bigger story is going to be, I already knew there was a connection with Cloud and Sephiroth, but they make it really obvious that that's going to be a thing. I don't think they ever showed him, but I know that they've done it in trailers, up until this point. So, it's like, yeah, I already know that's going to happen. I never really knew exactly how Tifa and Cloud knew each other. And so kind of already hearing some of that, it's like, okay, so this isn't some random person that we just run into and then we get close to her. He already knows her. Cool. Like, I've established that now. But I think that it does a really good job of kind of starting to build this team of characters that you're going to be using. I wouldn't necessarily say like, oh man, I feel super, super close to anyone yet, but I really like Jessie.
I love Jessie! Oh my god! I love her!
She's just
so
like
much.
This happy, bubbly, like, I'm gonna flirt with you in the middle of all this, but at the same time, like, hey, keep your head down and do your shit.
I was gonna ask who your favorite character has been from this demo.
Honestly, even over like Cloud and Barrett, it would be Jessie, and I know that a part of that is, like I said, the overacting that can happen in JRPGs and stuff like that. Barrett's fucking like blow up in the elevator, I was just like, there's so much extra here that doesn't even need to be here.
Yeah.
Like, Cloud already fucking knows you hired him and everything. You already know that he's a soldier and shit like that. So, of course, he's gonna be hella, like, straight-faced and not really give a shit. Like, so there was a lot of that interaction I didn't really like, just because it felt so extra when everything else was feeling so normal. And you would expect there to be a little bit of banter because, we're hacking this right now, so we got a little bit of time to kill. So Biggs and Jessie are talking about this new guy. Is he going to stay with us? Yeah, but he's a lot of fun to work with. Well, he's a lot of fun to look at. Jessie, do your job. Like, it was cute. I liked that. I do like those kind of off-the-side interactions that they've done so far, but then you put Barrett, Jessie, and Cloud into an elevator, and then Jessie's like shrugging, like you just got to go along with it. Again, feeling kind of realistic, but Barrett's like just going
like yelling
on and on, and Cloud is just like,
the planet.
I don't even know.
Yeah. So I was gonna ask you about that as well, because Barrett is this big, larger than life character. He is very much as he is portrayed in the game, in the remake. It's kind of how he is in the original. And the voice acting, I think, fits him really well, but I know some people were very not okay with it. But even in that scene where they are in the elevator, something that happens is that even during those times, I think that there are, because I was like, okay, Barrett, like you were really yelling in this elevator, it is not that serious. But then, I think we have a David.
Hello.
We do.
Hello.
Yay! We have a
Hello.
David.
Hi.
Hi.
And so, David, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. I feel the love and the welcome.
I'm so happy that you could make it. I'm just let me finish up this point, and then I'm going to ask you all about your opinions on Final Fantasy VII. Anyway, so yeah, there's a section, the section you were talking about when he's in the elevator, and then Cloud, when Barrett's like, "Oh my gosh, I can literally hear the planet crying out in pain," and then Cloud's like, "You should probably get help for that." Like, if you actually hear that, you should probably get help for that. And I think that sections like that where it kind of ties into it it's like the game knows that, okay, this motherfucker is crazy, but Cloud also knows, okay, calm the fuck down. So I did appreciate that those types of moments were there, because every time Barrett's like, oh my god, Cloud's like, okay, bro. And then Jesse's like, oh, okay, everybody. Like, this is really
No. And I totally get that, because, I mean, every character is going to have their personality traits. Everyone's going to be passionate about things, not care about things. You know, like, that's totally fine. And I even really liked how that first time you're in the elevator, Barrett fucking blows up, and then he's fighting with Cloud until all of a sudden it's like, okay, we need to stop and keep going. The next time that Barrett and Cloud are in an elevator together, he looks back and see how calm and collected Cloud is as he's about to start screaming and shouting again, and he doesn't. And he stops and he just waits until the elevator has gotten to the floor that it needs to be at.
Yeah.
I appreciate that character development, you know, because you spent 20 minutes with this dude at max, and he's already starting to be like, you know what, this fucking kid's right. You know, and so I do appreciate stuff like that. It was just that I don't see people necessarily running around in that same type of fashion and saying the same exact type of shit that he did. I get that it kind of introduces you to his character. I just think that it was still so overblown to the point where it's like I couldn't even take his passion for this seriously, because it was just way too much.
Yeah.
If he was like, I can fucking hear the planet crying out in pain, this is awful, we need to stop this. Cool, you've told me everything I need to really know in this moment about Barrett. Right. He's passionate about this. He can tell that this is hurting the environment and the world around him, and he wants to stop this. Correct. He doesn't need to go on like a 20-second scream fest where there's enough time to cut to Jesse, just be like, hey, fucking deal with it, bro. True. You know, so it's like, I don't have issues necessarily with how loud this character is, how opinionated and how passionate and stuff like that he is. Like, no, that's all the shit that I want. It's just that I felt like some of the writing was not very serious enough for how serious he feels about this, if that kind of makes sense.
It definitely does. And it's so funny. I'm so happy that you love Jessie, because I know that you know that that's the same English voice actress for Futaba in Persona 5.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, look, you're best girls everywhere. David!
Hi!
Welcome to the podcast. Thank you for coming.
Sorry I'm so late.
No, oh my gosh, no, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you. So, of course, we just want to know, because, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've played and finished the original Final Fantasy VII? Or did you not?
Not completely. I think I got to, like, the last disc and then lost it, or something. It's been
David, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
like, I'm missing the disc from the original 8 too. It's a problem.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Mine's complete, though.
Luckily, since we're doing our JRPG club and we're all playing 10 and we have it digitally and it's one disc, we won't have to do that anymore.
The future is wild.
So, David, tell me, you've played the demo more than once. What difficulty level did you play on?
I played it on the standard one both times, just because I honestly kind of found it challenging the first time around.
Bro, that shit was
especially
hard.
Once they... For a second, I thought you were gonna like roast me, and be like, "Bro, really?"
No,
it was.
That's something Marissa and I were just talking about, was that I appreciate the challenge in the game. It was much more challenging, and I beat it, and no one died. But I also was like, "Oh shit, this is a real game." Like, they are not fucking around.
There were definitely a couple times that I had to like stop myself and go like, "Hold up, let's heal. Let's think about this before we just run in somewhere again."
There's a section where Barrett was, I don't know if this happened to you guys, but Barrett's like just giving Cloud mad shit because he's dying, and I was like, oh my god, but it's me. Like, I am the person that he's talking to, and he's
for
like,
get your shit just fine. He's like, "Come on, Cloud,
right?
This is what I hired you for."
I was like, oh my god,
stay alive on your own.
I'm sorry, I know. Let me take a potion, because it's me. It's not even Cloud, it's me. I am the problem, Barrett. I'm sorry. It's so great, though. But yeah, sorry. Anyway, tell me your initial impressions of... actually, before that, really quick aside, I tried the classic mode, and it is the most boring thing ever. I was just talking to Marissa about it a little bit before the podcast. It is so boring, because you literally just wait until Cloud walks up and does like auto attack, and then you're able to once the gauge fills up, you're able to choose what spells and abilities he does. But it's super boring, so it is not at all what I thought it would be when they said that there was going to be like a turn-based mode. But anyway, tell me, David, all your thoughts about the remake demo.
I just loved how one-to-one that intro section was, because I'm like, this is probably what we all saw as kids, or like the magic and splendor of our PS1 graphics. This is what it looked to us. But it just throws you right in, and I think I love that. It was just it felt like a good evolution for what it was to like what it is now. Like, I like the combat system. I like the way they introduced like their special sort of attack ability things.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of fun. It made me really excited for the possibility of more like that.
You know, after I finished it, I was like, I need to play this again. And I've played it like 4 or 5 times, and then I was like, I need this game now. Like, I actually want to know, you know, and I know what happens, but I want to play through what happens next.
Yeah, it definitely made me very excited for that release date, because I don't know where this cuts off from the original story, but it was gorgeous nonetheless, and I can't wait to keep going.
And Marissa, let me ask you another question really quick, because since David brought it up, because this game starts in the middle, like you're just stuck in the middle of like a mission, like, oh shit, we started, not having played the original. How did you feel about that?
Oh, I was fine with it, because I think that it's good to kind of start on something that's action, because then you're already getting that introduction to combat. It's not like hey, we're going to go to a base, we're going to get briefed on it, we're going to talk about it, we're going to spend our time going there. You know, I like that it did just kind of start you off in it. And I think that it did feed you enough information that even though at first you're not exactly sure what you're doing at this place, you just know that you've been hired on for it. But as you go, there's definitely enough context. Because, I mean, like we were even just talking about in the elevator, where he's talking about how they're draining the power from the earth, and we need to stop this from happening. I was like, oh, okay. I'm like with this radical environmentalist group, and I agreed to help. Sure. I'm down. Like, I appreciated it. I liked it.
You know, for some reason, I just thought of the moment when Cloud's just like, I'm just here for the paycheck. And then Biggs is just like, nobody's here for just money. Like, that's crazy. And then Cloud just looks at him. And I was like, oh, no, he doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah, I really don't give a shit. Like,
I don't even know your name, pal. I just want some money.
And I just love that. And I love, so something that you may not know, Marissa, is that, and this is not a spoiler either, but the section of the game in the original is probably just a few hours long, maybe 4 or 5 hours at most, and they're turning that into a $60 full-fledged title. So you don't. There's going to be a lot more. So in the original, Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse are literally just like sprites that don't really have too much personality at all. So yeah, for everyone who is not, like, even if you've played this game before, for everyone, this has been completely different. And getting that type of energy and personality and character from just, 20 to 30 minutes of hanging out with these three is so amazing that I'm super excited to see what else they've developed on to get this game going. Now, I do want to talk to you guys a little bit about the more controversial stuff aside from the demo, which is the fact that this is a seemingly $60. It is $60, right?
Yeah.
It is. A $60 title. I also believe we still do not know how we will be getting the next portion, whether we're going to have to pay another $60 for it, whether there's going to be some type of DLC. Unless I'm wrong, I don't believe we know what's next for this. But having played the demo, knowing that the game is just part 1 out of who knows how many parts, how do you guys feel about investing in Final Fantasy VII at this point?
I think it just really depends on, like, the continuation. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
from here, like, how does this game expand? Is it going to be like a Final Fantasy 15 story going forward, where like we pay like a season pass for like $30 and there goes the rest of the episodes as they release, or are we going like 13, where each one's going to be like a full-fledged $60 video game so we complete the game? I'd much rather the 15 route, but I guess time will tell.
So, for you, it all depends on how it's released.
I mean, I'm still going to invest in it regardless.
Okay, that was my question.
If we're being honest.
Yeah.
That was my question.
I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you. It's gonna happen.
Okay. And
unless they do some nonsense of like jumping platforms whenever the next gen stuff comes out, but I would hope not.
You mean like Kingdom Hearts?
Oh.
Sorry.
Oof.
It's
Wait,
facts. I said, do you mean like Kingdom Hearts? But also, like, it's just facts. You can't go from KH1 on PS2 to the sequel on Nintendo's 3D, DS or whatever it was on. Don't do that.
Oh, true, yeah.
Don't
yeah.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of things going on. Way too many console jumping. I mean, like, hey, the third one came out like 15 years later, so...
Facts. So, Marissa, what about you? How do you feel? Like, are you going to purchase? Has the demo swayed you one way or the other?
If I knew how the second half of this, or probably not even second half, we don't know yet how many releases there's going to be, how many, how long it's going to take, if it's going to be a lot of episodes, 2 episodes, we don't know all that kind of stuff. If it was just a base game, hey, day one, you get all of it on disc, $60, absolutely, of course, holy shit, yeah. Because it looks like it's just going to be an amazing game, and I think it's definitely, well worth the $60 just for the game itself. Because I don't know what is going to happen after, I don't necessarily know if this is a $120 game for me yet. If it's, hey, we released this one disc for you for $60, and then the second disc for you for $60. So that's the thing I think in my mind, especially as someone who's not played the original and not know how in-depth or how cool or how, crazy the story's gonna get. That makes me still not want to buy it day one. Like, I really do want to get into this game, but I want to know more information about how releases are going to happen afterwards. It's like, I just want to know what I'm getting myself in for, as opposed to, I'm going to get the $60 thing and then find out, like, oh yeah, there's going to be 3 episodes additional to this one and they all cost $60. Because I'm like, whoa, hey, hold on. So it's kind of weird. I think that because there's not anything really known about what's going to happen after this initial release date, that it still makes me like, it was a good game, but I want to know. So yeah, I'm still very on the fence in terms of that. Like, I really want to know the story. I'm totally down to find all that stuff out, but until I know how these releases are going to go down, I am going to wait and see.
So, even though it is a full $60 complete title where you will get a beginning, middle, and end to this game, you still want to hold off to get the whole package. So,
the way that I had understood it, and maybe it's just that I am misunderstanding it, but I thought that it was, there will be like a start point, a midpoint, and an end point, but that it wasn't going to be the complete game. It wasn't going to be the entire story, that's going to release at a later time.
Oh, no, you're correct. This is just going to be the story for Midgar. So it will be, like, it should tie off in a proper ending, is what I'm saying.
Is it known that the game ends leaving Midgar?
Sorry, what?
Well, it says now. No, I'm just kidding.
Is that the known end to the game is leaving Midgar?
No. We don't know where it ends or how it ends. I mean, that is an assumption. Also, sorry, spoilers, Marissa. The whole game does not take place in Midgar. Oh shit. So that's the thing. This actual game might end in Midgar, but also it's supposed to be a full, complete package that will have an ending. It may have, some form of like, oh, you can continue on, but it, to my understanding, should not be if you buy this first one, you're gonna have to buy the next one, I mean, of course, who wouldn't want to? You don't want to start and then not finish. But it should have, like, a complete ending, beginning and ending, that wraps up at least this portion of the story.
Yeah, I think still knowing that for me, because I know the way that I am in terms of story. Like, there are very few times, except for like horror movies and stuff like that, where I don't want to go and see the sequels. I don't want to go and see how the continuation happens, especially because I do already kind of know. I mean, maybe not that we left Midgar, but I do already know that this is a big, expansive story. So if we got to the point where I'm like, okay, cool, I beat the first $60 thing, disc, digital download, whatever, that if, I jumped into chat and you guys were like, yeah, I can't wait to see how they handle this. And I'm like, wait, there's more? And, it's like, I still want to know, because I know that I won't want to stop.
Yeah.
I want to know the full story. So even if they do have a really good ending for it, I think that I would still know that it wasn't the complete game, and that I would still want to get it. So with that, I feel like, not that it's necessarily forcing your hand, because like you said, you can totally make the decision, and if someone else is better impulse control, or is like, the first part was a good story, we'll leave it
That's
at
all
that.
I needed to hear.
That's all I need to know. Yeah. Like, I know that I'm gonna want to invest all the way. So I'd much rather know how much I'm gonna be investing. I kind of want to know over, what time, even if it's just time windows of like, okay, the next one will come out in another year, or is the next one coming out in like 6 months and they just haven't told us yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still on the fence of getting it or not getting it. And for me, the demo's already proved that the game is worth it. It's just, I want to know what I'm getting into.
Yeah,
I want to know what comes after this.
Totally respectable and understandable decision, and I think a lot of people should also take that into consideration. Like, how long are you? I mean, obviously, like David said, for me, it's I am giving them all my money. They're taking my wallet. That's just because I love the original.
I'm signing over my firstborn to them. I'm giving them an
arm,
whatever they want
that.
Me.
Yeah, what do you need?
and just because even this demo, I loved it so much that I played it 5 times. But also because I know that next gen is coming out at the end of this year. If I think that this looks and plays great now, I cannot wait until I get the more involved story portions. Because I know what's coming. Being able to see that on a PS5, on like a brand new TV, brand new console. This game is already 2 Blu-ray discs. That's how big it is. Which I don't think I own a game that is 2 Blu-ray discs ever. Like on the PS4 in this generation, I do not have a game.
Yeah, I can't think of a single one.
This is like that's wild. I am looking forward to it.
Midgar's gonna be a fully realized city, guys. Get ready. We're never leaving.
You can buy tickets to go to Midgar right now, guys. That's how real this is.
Announced right here, guys.
You heard it here first.
We're gonna go hang out with
It wasn't a video game, it was a movie. We filmed it all on location. Go now.
Yeah.
I mean, with that animation work, I believe it.
For real.
Right?
I'm still just, woo! But anyway, I am very excited to see where it goes. My next question for you guys, and this will probably be my last question, aside from like overall thoughts and feelings, is: do you think that knowing how big this game is going to be, playing the demo, knowing that it's 2 discs for just one portion, do you think that splitting the game up was the right thing to do?
I'm gonna let David go first, because he's at least played more of the game and has a little bit more of an idea of what goes on, and then I'll go.
I really want to say yes. I can't remember like how much time I sunk into 7 and like hadn't fully finished it, but like it was a massive game. And with this being 2 discs, like how huge is this really? Besides like completing like whatever's considered the main story. Like, is there side stuff? Like,
yeah. So there was an interview over at IGN they covered it, and it was written by Wesley from Twitter. Hey, shout out Wesley. He's great. Wonderful. Go check out his article. His article, Final Fantasy VII's Remake. It's titled Final Fantasy VII Remake's Side Quests Will Maintain Quality of Story Missions, with the subheading Quality over Quantity. And there was a interview with Tetsuya Nomura, and one of the things that he said in the interview is that the side missions of this game are going to be just as big as the main story.
Oof. I mean, that alone, then, like, absolutely.
And even on top of that, there's also what Marissa and I were talking about earlier, which is and you were here, David, when when I was mentioning the character development of just Jesse, Biggs, and Wedge. That alone should show you that, like, this is gonna be real.
Mm-hmm.
True facts. I mean, like you said, I did touch on that part. Like, they were just nothing before, and now they got full-fledged voice actors and personalities, and not just text on the screen.
So do you think yes, so your answer is yes, you do think it was a good idea to split it up?
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, depending on, like, where this cuts off at, I can't imagine this will be, like, 4 more releases, because that'd probably be crazy. But I would imagine that where they've split is probably a good point if it's going to be this involving a first entry into a remake.
Marissa, what about you?
So I think that its main factor is going to be how long between these releases. I mean, clearly you're going to be spending a lot of time in this first initial release. If the side quests are that fleshed out on top of just the main story. And then, like you said, just adding in all those additional moments, because if in the original Jesse and Biggs and Wedge aren't saying anything, then you're not spending time on that and you're just going into other stuff. Now you are spending time on it, as well as who knows which other additional characters that they've decided to completely rework and revamp and add to. I think that as long as it's kind of like a balance of, we know that you guys are going to be spending 80 to 100 plus hours in this game, so that you're not going to be bothered waiting for this second release, then yeah. But if it starts to get to a point where you're like, okay, I completed the main stuff. Okay, now I'm completed a lot of the side stuff and we still haven't heard about the release, then I think that's where it becomes an issue. As of right now, even tentatively, because we don't know that next release date and how long it might take, I do think it's a smart decision, because that's a lot of fucking room. Yeah. That's a lot of space on your hard drive, and it's going to be a lot of time. Just like, even though it's different because it's not 2 discs and stuff like that, but even with Persona 5, I mean, I know that we were sinking in, like,
over
all of us,
hours.
like 80 hours at least. Yeah, 100 hours in some cases and stuff. And so now that Persona 5R is coming out, it's kind of been nice knowing that's going to happen, but I know that it kept me from doing, like, New Game Plus, because I was like, I don't want to be halfway through this.
Oh, yeah.
P5R come out, so it's like, I do think that taking a break could totally be fine. It's just, I think it kind of depends once you do get to that level of, okay, people have been playing this, and they're getting through the main story, and now they're powering through the side quests. If they don't have at least a window that's somewhat achievable or close to them, like, for the next release, I think that's where it becomes an issue, and people might either start to lose interest or be like, well, damn, I don't have enough space now, so I have to figure out what I want to delete, and maybe I don't want to delete stuff, and new games are coming out, so it kind of depends. I think that they're going to be okay. It sounds like there's going to be so much to keep people busy with, but, again, it's going to be one of those wait and see things for me, because it could be risky if they don't announce something once people are realistically starting to end their playthrough.
So for me, I think that splitting it up was the right thing to do. I think the proof is in the 100 gigabytes of data that we're going to store on our hard drive when we download this game. Yeah. I think the proof is also in the 2 Blu-ray discs. I think, and at first I was like, okay, this could be a bunch of just filler shit, It could be 50 hours of great gameplay and then 50 hours of fetch quests, for all we know. Which would suck so much. That would be shit. But, and I was very, very concerned about this at first, because I really need to see what what this game, like, why is it that those 2 discs could not contain the entire story of Final Fantasy VII? Now, also, the story of Final Fantasy VII is convoluted as fuck. Long as shit. It is crazy. It's expansive. It is huge. A lot goes on in that game. Like, it goes from small town to very big, very quick. And I won't spoil. Just, there's a lot. There's a bunch of shit that happens that you won't see coming. But I think playing the demo has made me realize, okay, yeah, I am 100% okay with the split, because a lot of times people will say, you know, that games feel like they're unfinished, or I think, David, you've played Three Houses. I think Fire Emblem Three Houses is a great example of a game that could have benefited from having its entirety be on, you know, the one disc, because right now there's DLC that adds more story, and there were characters added after the fact, and it all seemed very like a bunch of stuff that should have been in the original game was left out because there was no space, there was no time, whatever that reason is, it's there. And it sucks as, you know, players who don't get the full experience, because I bought the game day one. I did not buy the DLC, and there's so much more that I've missed out on, but I finished it. And I don't necessarily want to go back. That was 150 hours that I don't know that I want to go back and do. And so I think with Final Fantasy VII, I think if they tried to squeeze everything, that they wanted to get this full game out at one time, and they couldn't do it under 100 gigabytes in 2 discs, I think that splitting it up is the best thing to do, because if you're going to take on the task of doing a remake the size and scope and, you know, gaming history of Final Fantasy VII, it has to be good. And if the only way that it can be good is if you take the time to focus on the details and to make a video game for the ages that is going to appease old fans and excite brand new ones, if you gotta spread it out, fucking spread it out. Don't try to squeeze it all into one thing, because I mean, you're at that point you would just be ruining so many lives of people who are in love with this game since they were children. And also, this is so the other thing is, this is a big brand title. Everybody knows Final Fantasy VII, you know? You may not know about the game. You may have, even if you don't know anything about the game, you've seen Cloud somewhere. Shit, we've all seen him in Smash. Yeah. Like, you've seen screenshots of this white guy, blonde hair, spiky, big sword. If you played Kingdom Hearts, you saw him over there. Like, we know who Cloud is.
He's been made into various cartoons.
You see?
Yeah.
Like, we fucking know Cloud. So, it is a on-the-line title. Like, this after Final Fantasy 15 and whatever the fuck is going on, whatever went on with Versus 13 and whatever's going on with Nomura and Kingdom Hearts and that whole nonsense there. Like, people have lots of things to say. So I think the gaming world is watching this game. And I think being able to space it out and have time to really delve into the story that you actually want to tell is much better than squeezing it all together in one release. So I think it was the right thing to do. I still am hoping, beyond hope, that we get some type of, like, you know, DLC fixture, like David said, in which we can decide to, you know, maybe buy the second half of the game for, if you have the season pass. I don't know, shit, they might do one of those things where you get it for free. I don't know. Let's hope. Just give us all, like,
throw my money into the fucking pile right now.
Right. Let us pay $60 one time and then just redeem the story as it comes. Or maybe charge, you know, $5 or $10 for part 2 and part 3. Or, you know, maybe just part 2. Maybe we only have to spend $10 on part 2 and they're able to, which I highly doubt, because if part 1 is like 4 or 5 hours in the original, I'm sure we're looking at least 4 parts in this game, because there are sections that are much bigger than Midgar. But what do I know? I don't know. What I do know,
it all depends on when it ends.
That's very true. That's very true, because we don't know when this first section is ending.
And I mean, let's trail back. They've kind of shown a lot of characters so far. So do all the people that they've shown already make it into this first part?
Well, also on this article from IGN, Marissa, this might be a little bit of a spoiler. Did you see the latest trailer for the game?
I believe so.
The last one was
it with Cloud all, dressed up? I'm not gonna say it anymore.
yes, that
because if it was that one, I've seen it. Yeah.
With the song, Hollow, the trailer for the theme song of the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so mentioned in the article is that Red 13 is going to be shown in this game. But he's not playable in this first section of the game.
Okay. So that says something.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It says a little something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's that. Marissa, let me get your opinion, actually, since you have seen the trailer. And now that is a little bit of spoiler, because now you know that Red 13 is playable. I'm sorry for anyone who didn't know that.
I did see that. I saw that. It's fine. I'm fine with it. I don't know about our listeners. But
spoiler poops. I'm sorry. So, seeing his design and knowing that this is a Final Fantasy game kind of really, it seems, based in reality for the most part, aside from, using spells and wielding big-ass swords. Also, oh my god, so something, speaking of attention to detail, and I'm going off on a tangent, and I'm making this podcast too long, I'm sorry, but, so, in the game, you get materia. David, you know what materia are. Basically,
oh
Marissa.
My god, I saw that too, and it got me so excited.
Cool! So you were talking...
Sorry.
It's fine for me. So, Marissa, you know how you're talking about attention to detail?
Uh-huh.
So, you know how in Cloud's sword, there's this little green circular thing in the back of it? I don't know if you noticed it. So that's called a materia, and materia allows your character to do a bunch of different things. So, like, that green one might be a fire materia, and Barrett will have a cure and a lightning materia on him, which allows him to cast those spells. So, speaking of attention to detail, something that happens is that every time that you change the materia in the game, in your weapon, it will physically change. So, if you were to equip like a cure spell on Cloud, and you would like see the actual materia for cure in your sword as it happens. And
yeah, that's hot.
That is like, I was like, what? Like before, you just go into a menu, you equip it, and that's it. But being able to see, and there were screenshots, Tifa's are in her armband. You can literally see the different materia sitting inside. Yeah, it's amazing. I'm just like, how can you guys even do this? Like, what? This is too much. You're doing too much, damn it. Like, no game is ever going to be able to even reach this height anymore. I forgot what I was talking about. It's really annoying. Like, I think that the end of this generation is great with, Last of Us 2 and Ghost of Tsushima and Final Fantasy 7 all coming to PS4. I think it's going to be an amazing end of the year. And we're going to, in between that, play Animal Crossing. It's going to be great. It's going to be fucking great. I'm really excited for the end of this Microsoft and Sony generation. Anyway, Red 13, what are your impressions, Marissa, as someone who's never played the game before?
I'm totally, he seems cool. Like, I'm down to meet him, I'm down to know him. Other than that, I don't really,
No, I know, I just
great.
because, when I was playing it
because was it more like because he's like an animal who can talk?
Yeah, and
or
like,
just from seeing him?
Animal, he can talk! I know, yeah.
Yeah, I think...
Is Red 13's voice... Oh, is that a spoiler? I don't know. Everything's talk, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
I mean, they released the trailer,
like,
and I'm just gonna say, the trailer was out there.
We heard him talk in the trailer.
Oh, okay, great. I didn't even hear that. I'm excited. I need to go find this trailer now.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to send it to you. And then Tifa's like, oh, he can talk? And I'm like, bitch, I know.
Yeah.
He can talk. Like, what the fuck is going on?
Who would have thought?
Yeah, no, I just wanted your quick opinion, because I know when I played the original, I was like, this talking ass dog, I could play as him? Like, what? The fuck? I'm down now.
Yeah, because the thing is like, I do like fantasy shit, and I love all that kind of stuff too, so as long as there's like a cool explanation as to why, and it's not just like, no, just this one animal can talk for no fucking reason, it doesn't even matter. Like, yeah. I'm down. I'm down to figure out the story behind him and why he can talk and what's going on there. I think as long as, the story does a good job of introducing that. Like, yeah, I'm 100% for it.
Man, this makes me so nervous for like a part 2 or part 3 when you are introduced to some other characters in this game that are also exactly just like, I was just like, when Marissa said that, I was like, oh, wait until she sees this nonsense. Like,
oh, girl,
well, so in, cause we were just talking about Persona 5. I fucking love Persona 5. I totally believe the character of Morgana. You know, like 100%. I don't have really any issues with Morgana at all.
I never saw it coming.
Wait, what?
I never saw it coming.
Oh, yes, that was great!
So as long as there's a reason for them to be there, or as long as it's kind of introduced as like, yeah, this should be, yeah, of course he's there. Or at least other characters are being like, you know, just like with Tifa, you know, at first being like, what? They can talk? And so then you're gonna explore that. So I'm down for that kind of stuff. Cause there's been plenty of like animal companions, animal characters and stuff like that have, even though the rest of the game doesn't seem like that would necessarily fit in, as long as they do a good job with like explaining why. To someone like me who has no fucking idea, never played the game or anything like that. So I'm sure everyone else is like, duh, of course. Like, yeah, I wasn't like, oh wow, this game looks stupid now because there's a talking tiger dog thing. Like, I was like, oh, I like his voice and he seems nice and I want to know him.
Yeah. Okay, so and one more thing, and this is a little bit of spoiler territory for anyone who has not seen the trailer. It's only if you haven't seen the trailer.
Oh, okay.
Oh, the trailer.
Okay. I'm not spoiling you on anything that was not revealed already. I promise. I want you to experience this like as it is, and I want to hear all your opinions. So I would not spoil you on that. But because I'm surrounded by a bunch of LGBT friendly people, and you guys have seen the trailer, what did y'all think about cross-dressing Cloud and that scene that they showed off?
David, go.
I mean, I played the original, so I remember that. So I mean, I'm super excited to see my girl Cloud.
Yes!
I hope she got a name.
Yes!
She lip sync for her life. I can only hope.
Oh my god, yes!
I mean, it was really well done. You know, I can say that if Cloud needs a new career, there's always, you know, working the door somewhere at night.
So one of the reasons I brought it up is because I really, really, really loved that they showed that off. Because first of all, it showed all the people who have not played the original, who didn't know about that. And it also showed all the bigoted assholes who are homophobic, and I was like, get fucked. But also because I think that it was handled very well. I wasn't sure how they were going to go about dealing with it. And, you know, a part of the speech is just, it's basically like, you know, beauty is for anybody, no matter the gender. You can be beautiful. And then the guy's like in Cloud's face and he's like, yeah, you're perfect. And I was like, okay. Like, what's going on here? But I really, really appreciate that they, you know, took the time to take that route in this game. As opposed to making it, you know, really big and campy and like super out of place and out of field. Because Final Fantasy VII is crazy, funny, fun. It's not just all serious. Like it is, there's a lot of goofiness that goes on in that game. And so I was very happy to see that they took that portion of the game and they left it intact, but they also were, I mean, as much as I've seen, they were very respectful with how it's been done. So I was excited about it. What did you think, Marissa? Having not played, like, what did you get from watching that?
Like, I kind of knew about, I don't know any of the context about the scene or anything like that. So, you know, again, it was one of those, like, yeah, I don't know how this gets introduced. I don't know, you know, what kind of prompts this, if this is like a secret mission. And
it's gonna be so good. Oh my god, I can't
wait for you to play that.
I know.
I don't know any of like the context or anything like that. But like you said, I feel like just from what I saw, it looked really well done. It looked really respectful. Like, I'm excited to know what the fuck is finally up with that, because I think I've like either seen some of like Cloud's sprites dressed up before they announced the remake or something like that. So it's like I kind of knew something happened, but I don't know what's gonna happen, and so I'm excited. Like, that trailer got me excited to see what's gonna happen.
I just want you to know, like, what happens, and then I want to hear it. Because
Can we Skype while you play that?
Oh, I would love it.
Yeah, we just do, like, one of those, like, react videos of me being like, this is what happened.
And then after, like, I just want to see, leading up to it, and then when it happens, and then after it happens, you're gonna be like, this bitch. And I'm like, yes. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. Anyway, because this has been an hour and a half, I'm gonna go ahead and ask you guys for your final thoughts on Final Fantasy VII Remake. Anything you want to mention that you weren't able to, that you really, really liked, that you really didn't like, whether you're interested, whether you are tentative on picking it up, anything else that you want to say before we close out?
I'm really excited to see, like, some of, like, our favorite characters from Final Fantasy VII, like, appear for the first time. Because, like you said, there's, like, you got Red 13, like, get ready for something else, Marissa.
Mm-hmm.
Or, like, you know, some of our other friends that we may have to, like, collect to be in our party. Like, I just can't wait to see how, like, they're handled or how they play. Like,
I can't wait to see Daddy. That's all I'm gonna say. I want to see him so bad. He was, like, he's dead. Yes. If you play through the original, you know who Daddy is, hopefully. And Daddy's got some nice black hair, and he's really fine. and yeah.
I don't want to, like, delve into spoiler territory, but I'm really excited to see a friend of ours that might hang out in a coffin just because...
That's Daddy! That's Daddy! That's who I'm talking about! That's Daddy!
Okay, well, I can't wait to see Daddy then.
I can't wait to see Daddy! Everybody else looks so good, so I'm like, ooh!
You know, Daddy had their own game once, so I wonder if it'll play the same way.
We'll see, but I mean, okay, I'm done.
Yeah, okay. It also made me really excited to see if this would be, like, a possibility with, like, some other classic Final Fantasies. Like, could you imagine, like, a fully redone 6? Something that I'm sure, like, not a whole lot of people have played, or like, 9 would make me cry.
Joe would die. He loves 6.
Okay, I'll die over 9. He would just die together.
Yeah.
Marissa, anything else you wanted to throw out there before we ended?
Just that I am excited for it. I'm excited to see where it goes. Even though I am not, like, a day one purchase, or, like, I'm running up to, like, pre-order it right now. It's made me really excited. Final Fantasy VII has always been one of those things where it's like, I would see stuff, I would, hear mentions of it and be like, it seems like it's cool. There's a lot of people who like it. I'm sure I could probably like it. So far the demo has just showed me that the hype is real. I know that a part of it is that nostalgia factor of people just being so excited to see something that they do remember from childhood being done up so epically, so huge, completely rebuilt from the ground up. But, until there is more details, I'm just kind of like, I want to know how the rest of the release is going to be handled. So that's my main thing that's keeping me from, like, committing to buying this game is I want to know what I'm getting into before I just slap money down and then get bummed out because, I'm only doing the first half of this for a while. Sad face. But yeah, I mean, and Jerel knows because he's been yelling at me to play so many different demos over and over again.
If I'm saying, guys, she does not play demos at all. Like, she refuses.
I'm really bad.
I have been trying to get her to play Octopath Traveler demo for 2 years now, and she just keeps telling me no. She does not play demos whatsoever.
I'm gonna download it to the Switch.
She's not gonna play
don't do it.
Like,
we'll find a way.
I'll just be like, I have it downloaded on my Switch, and I've already moved it to archive, and I'm not.
She does not play demos. Like, I did it. I was like, she's not gonna do this podcast. Like, she's gonna find a way to not play a demo, so she's not gonna come on the podcast.
No, at midnight last night, I fired up the demo, and I played it until, like, 1:11 in the morning, and it was really good. Like I said, there were those points where I was like, I can't believe that it's just, like, efforts for 5 minutes. Like, I get it. Like, we're all edgy and shit, whatever. But, I really liked what I saw. I really liked the way that the combat was handled and everything. There is so much good there that the complaints that I do have, I'm like, you know what? No, I really want to see it. I want to try it. I really want to know what's going to happen with the release, and once I know that, I'm committed. Like, high ski.
Well, I said this makes me so excited. And also, I do want to throw this out there. Here's hoping that because they have all the assets, because they've already worked on it, because they have so much of this done already, and they have the characters and all that other stuff, they have the music, etc. Hopefully, it'll be less time in between parts. Because a lot of this is already done. So hopefully it won't take, 1 million years for part 2, Hopefully. That's what I'm thinking.
If part 2 is like holiday this year, that'd be wild.
If they did something like a Pokemon release, that would be great. Where you have the first part of the DLC in the first half of the year, and then the second part in the second half. I think that'd be good.
Yeah. And plus, hot.
We've all got other things to play in between half a year, so waiting for the other half is pretty decent. So my closing thoughts are that originally I was expectations were super high for this game, and then I played the demo, and I was honestly my expectations were not met. But it's so good that I think I had unrealistic expectations, whereas if I had realistic expectations, the game would have met them. If that makes sense.
Okay. Expectations that weren't met?
I think just like, for example, classic mode as a big one. I thought that it was going to be something that it really was not. Another one is just, Marissa and I were talking about earlier, not having a jump button. Just little things that I feel like should have been integrated into the game that aren't. That kind of, like, instead of making it an 11 out of 10, it's like a 10.5 out of 10, because it's still over a 10, because oh my god. And that's just me playing the demo, but it just, I don't know, I guess watching a lot of things about it, I was expecting something very different from what I did, but then what I did was just fucking awesome. So, like, it wasn't that it was bad, it just was different, I should say. But that different was very, very good, because I don't think I've played a turn-based action I haven't ever played a turn-based RPG that's also action-oriented in this manner, and I think it's just so creative and so well done, and just the thought, even making that work, I am just astounded at the ability to make that work, because who does that? Like, who has you do active time battle as well as, like, action RPG? It's good, y'all. It's just good. Like, my mind is still blown. I don't even know. I don't have words. I'm done. Thank you, everyone, for listening to the podcast. It's been a wonderful time. Thank you, Marissa, for talking to me. Thank you, David, for hopping in and hanging out with us. It's been so great. I cannot wait until we get more on this freaking game. We only have, April? Oh my god, it's April? It comes out April?
Yeah.
Holy smokes, it's March right now.
We're almost there.
Gosh. What is that, April 10th? April 10th. Okay. Let me, I have so many games to finish before this. Alright. Bye, everyone!
Bye!